Welcome to the Veterinary Marketing Podcast, where it's all about helping your veterinary practice attract, engage, and retain clients. Broadcasting a new podcast every Monday from sunny Southern California, here's your host, Brandon Bashirs.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode number 173 of the Veterinary Marketing Podcast. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Today, we are going to be talking about 3 campaign elements that you need to have squared away, set up, understood before you begin. If you get these 3 things, you have a much, much higher chance for success when it comes to digital marketing and running paid promotions. Doesn't matter if it's Facebook ads, Instagram ads, Google ads, YouTube ads, LinkedIn ads, wherever you want to be running ads, this will be helpful for you. Before we begin, I want to mention a few things. First, if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe in iTunes or Google Play. And if you could do me a huge favor, please leave an honest review in iTunes or Google Play. That would be very helpful. The other thing that I would like to mention too is this episode is being sponsored by veterinarydentistry.net. If you go to veterinarymarketingpodcast.com/dentistry, you can register for Dr. Beckman's upcoming Killer Extractions webinar. He'll help you to get more confidence when it comes to extractions. And if you are like most veterinarians, you didn't get the dental training that you needed in veterinary school. So be sure to head on over to veterinarymarketingpodcast.com/dentistry. Sign up for that free webinar. It's going to be this Sunday coming up. And if you're listening to this in the future, no worries that it will be also forwarded to the next available live webinar that he's doing. So again, veterinarymarketingpodcast.com/dentistry. All right, let's jump into today's episode. So having the correct settings and setting yourself up for success when it comes to running paid ads is extremely important. And I think that a lot of times we just whip together stuff that is, especially if you're a beginner, you're excited to get started. And this is, I think, what I see a lot is that, people are excited to get started. They want to start running ads. They think that I'm going to turn on ads and it's going to be successful. But the truth is that you need to have a few things set up beforehand. So we're going to cover those right now. The first thing that I think is crucial to success is turning off automatic placements. And if you're running ads, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram or Google, having automatic placements hurts your ads. And the reason for that is because they just don't look good when it comes to the placements that they're running inside. So for example, let's say you create a video and you want to be posting it and running that as a Facebook ad. And let's say you just choose automatic placements, and it says suggested or recommended typically by on any of these automatic placements spots. And the reason for that is these advertisers want you to be running as many ads as possible. The more ads you run, the more clicks you get, the more it costs in general, right? That's kind of their philosophy when it comes to running advertising. So they want you to get as many impressions. They want to charge you for as much as they possibly can. And I get it. They're trying to run a business. They want advertisers. They need to fill all of the ad spaces. So that being said, when you run, let's say, a video, and let's say that you're running it in a pre-roll or a mid-roll on Facebook. Mid-roll on Facebook is only a 15-second video ad. You've probably experienced this yourself, where you've gone through and looked at a video on Facebook and you've noticed that an ad ran, and it made no sense what the ad was about. You're like, what the heck was that? That's because it wasn't designed to be a 15-second ad spot. Those unskippable mid-rolls are terrible for the most part, and most businesses are not getting what they are expecting out of it because they simply don't understand. So what they end up seeing is, oh, look at our video got 2,000 impressions and the cost per impression was really low. Fantastic, we're so excited, it was a great success. Well, maybe it was if you were just worrying about impressions or view cost, but if you were worrying about impact and if people understood your marketing message, your offer, and what you're looking to actually sell, you're going to have a much less chance of success by just posting it everywhere. Some of the places specifically that I think are terrible placements for, Facebook, for example, are instant experiences, which is definitely low quality traffic just because the ad looks so strange. You probably haven't ever noticed it. You probably don't get a ton of placements there, but it's possible. The other place that I think is terrible for Facebook is typically right-hand column on desktop. It just is not usually a very big size in terms of real estate. So unless you're creating an ad specifically for that spot, I don't see it working out very well for most businesses. And then also, I think, running inside of Marketplace is typically not the best placement. And, just anywhere like third-party apps and third-party app networks that Facebook has access to in their ad development is not necessarily the best. And so that's just Facebook alone. I think if you look at Instagram, I think Instagram's a lot more forgiving as long as you are creating ads specifically for Instagram. So if you had an ad that was a carousel image, for example, and you run that as a story, it actually looks pretty good as a story, surprisingly. So you're going to have to really test this out and understand what the different ad placements are, what they look like, what works best. And ultimately, you have to become a practitioner so that you can understand how everything works, what the interaction is like, and become, again, a practitioner of the platform so that it's not just theoretical. You know what works, what doesn't, and all of that good stuff in there. So if I'm creating a campaign for a client, for example, my placements are not going to be automatic placements. I create one ad for one placement typically, and then I'll split test different things. Instead of using the ad as the split test, I'd create additional campaigns that are pushing out different ads to different audiences typically. So I always like to be split testing. I think typically if I'm doing Facebook or Instagram, I like to have at least 6 to 8 different ad variations. And typically those ad variations are tested upon the different audiences that I'm running or the different segments. And then I'll compare those side by side to the other placements. And I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, be sure to head on over to the Veterinary Marketing Nerds Facebook group, join the group, and ask questions there because I'm always happy to respond to questions that happen there. So the next thing that you need to have specifically set up is your conversion objective, because this is something that across every single ad platform, you need to know what is the goal. So Facebook and Instagram, there's tons of conversion options. You have standard conversion options, you have custom conversion options, and those are measured through pixels. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with pixels, just because there's a lot of pushback on privacy right now. There's actually a new setting inside of Facebook that has been rolled out in 3 countries about resetting and removing advertising data from your profile. So what's happening is that the users right now tons of data is being collected on them, as far as everything that you do in your browser history, every site you go to, every activity that you're doing on your mobile phone, on your desktop where you're looking and engaging with ads and things like that, just compiling tremendous data sources on these people. And what Facebook is doing is that they've said, okay, if you want to, you can remove your data from Facebook so that you can't be tracked. And this is definitely going to appeal to a certain segment of people. I think that especially initially, it's going to have a big impact where it's going to be noteworthy, and so everybody's going to say, oh, look, I can erase my data. Cool, I'm going to do that. Hopefully, and what I'm hoping happens is that the people who do that are going to have a poor experience in terms of once they erase things from their settings, they're going to see less information that is relevant to them specifically. So sure, it's creepy that Facebook knows everything that you're doing, and they know that you were looking at dog toys on whatever website you were looking at, dog toys for your dog, right? But then at the same time, if they show you content that's interesting related to dogs, you're like, hey, this is cool, I like this stuff. And if they just completely wipe the slate clean in terms of user data, then you're going to start seeing stuff that's not as relevant just because they don't have all of the data there. So it's a double-edged sword for the consumers. And it sounds cool to have more privacy, right? Would you like more privacy? Of course. But then at the same time, would you like to have a good user experience on these apps and things? And so we'll see how this pans out. But, getting back to conversion events, because that's where we're going before I went down that rabbit hole. There's typically a few conversion events that I like to use, specifically clicks, landing page views, complete registration, and purchase conversion. Those are pretty much the 4 that are my go-to. So each one of these conversion events is different, right? And it's different in terms of what the objective is. Now, if we're looking at specifically people that are going to do clicks and optimizing for clicks, that's going to get you more clicks at a lower cost. Page views, more page views at a lower cost. Complete registration, that's more complete registrations at a lower cost. Complete appointment, those are more appointments at a lower cost. So understand, what is the end goal that we're trying to do here with the ad, with the campaign that we're running, and it's important to understand that. Now, just because you might have, complete purchase, let's say you're actually selling dog food on your veterinary practice's website, which is not common, right? If you're collecting payment, most veterinary practices don't have payment collection on the website. And that's understandable because it's not that kind of business model. You're not an e-commerce business. But if you were, it may be cheaper to go for landing page views instead of actual purchase conversions. And the reason for that is they might be giving you better quality data because you have more landing page view actions to take from in that sample of data. So what we're trying to do here is give Facebook enough data so that they understand who the ideal profile is of the potential client. And so you're going to need to figure out what's the best optimization method for that. Facebook says it's 50 conversion events per week that they need in order to get enough conversion data to make a good profile of who's the premium person. So that's one thing to consider. Google says that they need 15 conversion events per day in order to begin to optimize there. So you need to take that into consideration as well. So are you having enough conversion events to actually make a difference and to collect enough data to give to Facebook or Google so that you can perform better with the optimization for these specific events? Think about that. Now, the more specific that you get with these conversion events, the more that you're going to be able to get, I think, higher quality leads or higher quality people coming to your website. Right? With the clicks and that they're optimizing for clicks, they're going to show it to people who are likely to click on things. That doesn't mean it's necessarily the highest quality, right? So if you're doing landing page views, that's actually somebody going and looking at your page. Somebody completing registration, that's going to be somebody who's going to give you their email address in exchange for whatever you're doing. So make sure that you're testing these different conversion events. Make sure that you're tracking them properly with pixels and just test. I'm going to say, though, for sure, with Google Ads specifically, just because veterinary practices are local businesses, you don't have typically that much of an ad spend to make conversion events the primary. Like if you wanted to say phone calls, for example, you're probably not going to get enough phone calls to give Google enough data to begin optimizing for that. So it's going to be more expensive than if you're just optimizing for clicks. And again, it's going to be different because you need to make sure that, with Google, for example, if you're doing search ads, having somebody click is actually valuable because they're performing a specific search that you're looking to intercept there. And so, using clicks as a conversion objective is actually a great conversion objective inside of Google Ads. Just wanted to throw that out there for search ads, right? Not necessarily for display ads, because if you're posting up, retargeting display ads and it's on like CNN.com, you don't necessarily want somebody just clicking. Right? High click-through rate doesn't necessarily mean a high conversion rate, but you're going to pay for those clicks. If you are doing, very targeted search ads, you're going to have better results if you get more clicks. So that's why you want to be converting on clicks, and that be your conversion objective there. So I know that's a little bit complicated. Again, if you have any questions, be sure to head on over to the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/the Veterinary Marketing Nerds. All right, the last thing that I think is important to understand, have set up properly before you go, is understanding your call to action. And I talk about this a lot, but it's very, 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 very important. And I was actually just talking to veterinary practice last week, and it made me think about this, that I wanted to highlight it specifically because they said, hey, we have somebody new who's starting and we want to create a post, and here's what we want the post to do. We want the post to introduce the doctor to the new person, to the new clients. We want to announce that they're coming there. We want it to also be used so that it can target the old clients, and then we can, also send them a promotion, right? So they had in mind one specific ad creative, and there was like 15 objectives for this ad to be doing. So, that is totally understandable. You want your content to do a lot of work, but is it doing too much work? What is the actual call to action? If you could only choose one of those things, what would you want it to do? It's like the difference if I said to you, like, hey, I've got a really cool Swiss Army knife. It's right here. Please go ahead and use this for your next dental procedure that you're doing. You'd say, this isn't suitable. It's not what I need for what I'm doing. It doesn't have anything that I need. I'm like, sure it does. It has scissors, it has a knife, it has a saw, it has a screwdriver. You can use that for extractions. Like, you can go ahead and use it. It has some pliers. Look at that. It's all set to go. Sure, it can do lots of things, but it doesn't do any of those things really well, right? And so it's the difference between having surgical instruments versus a Swiss Army knife. So you need to think about that in terms of your content that you're putting out, your offers that you're putting out. The call to action is the instrument that you want to use, right? And there's times where calls to action are appropriate, just like your instruments are appropriate or not. And so understanding that you have this toolbox, you can do things that are trying to get likes, trying to get shares, comments, clicks, engagement. What is the call to action that you're trying to do? Try to have one specifically. And then anything that you get above and beyond that, as long as you're hitting that objective, is just like getting extra credit. And so really focus in on what is the one thing that we're trying to achieve with this post and go from there. If it was, if I was in the shoes of that practice that's hiring a new veterinarian, and they wanted to make sure and announce that they had this new veterinarian there, I would say make sure that everybody knows specifically from the old practice that, hey, we have this veterinarian here, especially if she has a big clientele with a lot of great relationships already in place. And I know that that's definitely a hot topic inside of the veterinary industry, so I'm not going to comment because I don't know from like a management or legal perspective what you can or can't do. But I think that, advertising and trying to retain clients would be the objective that I'd want to do there. So I know that we covered a lot here. We'll just review really quick so that it can help you, get down to these 3 things. So first, make sure that you turn off automatic placements. Make sure that you're creating ads for a specific placement so that it looks right. You have all of the different elements properly set up. You have the headline set up, you have the body copy set up, if possible, if it's applicable. The image is the right size, or the video is the right size and format, and it makes sense in that placement. Become a practitioner of each social media channel because you need to see what's working, how things work, what all the placements are, and how people engage with them. The next thing you need to do is figure out what is the conversion objective that we're going to be running inside of the ad platform specifically. Are we trying to get link clicks? Are we trying to get landing page views? Are we trying to optimize for specific conversion events? We're going to have enough conversion events to be able to optimize. Again, Facebook is 50 conversion events per week, and Google is 15 per day. And then finally, what is the call to action? If we could only choose one thing for the person looking at this specific ad or promotion or content piece to do, what would that one thing be? And how can we measure that specifically so that we'll be able to tell if it was successful or if it was a failure? I want to thank you so much for listening. And again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. The Facebook group, the Veterinary Marketing Nerds, is the best place to do that. And again, be sure to head on over to veterinarymarketingpodcast.com/dentistry to sign up for Dr. Beckman's free dental webinar. All right. Talk to you soon, everybody. Have a great day.